Wow. Abel Sanchez says that Gennady Golovkin's, hey, no, guys, his focus is still Canelo, even if Canelo loses to Daniel Jacobs in May. Stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Wow, some very shocking. I don't really get shocked in boxing, and I'm not really shocked by this, but it's shocking that it's so brazen what Abel Sanchez is now saying. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Before I get started, BoxFan Expo 2019, it happens this year, runs concurrent with Canelo versus Jacobs, a great middleweight fight. I'm a affiliate, helps the channel, so if you'd like to get tickets from me, then you can purchase them in the description box. Now, speaking of middleweight division, Gennady Golovkin announced his dealings in partnership with DAZN. We don't know his first fight. The person I heard he might fight has 4 knockouts. It's not it's like a random name who happens to be ranked. It's crazy. But Abel Sanchez did an interview, and this is what he says. He says, quote, "As Gennady said, this is not about the belts. This is about fighting the best that are out there. If Daniel Jacobs beats Canelo, then Canelo is still the front runner to fight Golovkin, because I think the 2 fights prior to that calls to that. Regardless of what happens in that fight, Canelo is the fight for Golovkin in September. If given the choice between those 2 guys, Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs, Canelo is the fight that's going to happen regardless." Wow. Like, I almost don't even have words for this. This is hilarious. New media, digital mob. Make sure you guys, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. So Abel Sanchez is brazenly telling the public that they're targeting the loser of Canelo versus Jacobs if in fact Canelo does lose, which obviously he might be the favorite, but they're telling you it won't matter if he loses. If he loses, then guess what? It's all fair game, and that's still the fight that they want based on, I guess, 2 past fights. That is horrendous. That is like horrendous. I feel like the boxing world needs to come together and call a spade on what's going on in the boxing. This is offensive on so many levels. I don't even know where to begin. For starters, Gennady Golovkin and Abel Sanchez said a lot when he first came in the game. Said he was feared, he was ducked, no one wanted to smoke, after the Gregor's Proska, Gabe Rosado was bloody, things like that. And they said no middleweights want smoke. Cotto don't want it, Sergio Martinez. And they created this perception of who Gennady Golovkin. Hey, no, guys, hey, Max. Hey. No, I'm ready. Everybody. They created this perception, which we now see was a facade on what fighter Golovkin was. They conned the Mexican public and coined this term, hey, Mexican style. I like Mexican stuff. All this stuff, based out of California, where, there's a dense, large Hispanic population, claimed this Mexican style until it came time to fight an actual skilled, in prime Mexican in Canelo Alvarez. I don't personally subscribe to black style or, African style, Mexican style. I never got into that, me personally, because I don't think there any one group of people or race or ethnicity or anything fights exactly alike. You could be, there's black fighters who use lateral movement, and then there's black fighters like James Kirkland that, they're in it for the war. They like to just chunk them, Even Paul Williams, he threw a lot of punches, right? So there's no race style or ethnic style, or those things. Sometimes you can see stereotypes and similarities, but anyway, they use this whole Mexican style. Then they coined it as what the style was, like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. and great people, and rallied the troops and got fanfare from it. And we see at the elite level when Gennady Golovkin is put up against it with Daniel Jacobs, who's now fighting Canelo, who's now fighting Jacobs. He was the farthest from Mexican style. He was jab style, jab, jab, jab. It's like Golovkin's MO is he's gonna bully you and break you down. And if your skill set shows that you're not for that, and you're not going to just lay down, or you can take a punch or whatever, then he reverts to amateurs style and just regular, just basic boxing at the most basic level, just like jab, some subtle movement, shifting, things like that. He's not a fast guy, he's not a flashy Roy Jones Jr., Prince Nassim, some guy with a lot of pizzazz, the way he moves, and things like that. So the whole Mexican style was not even true to what he does. Golovkin is a aggressive boxer puncher, and depending on your level of skill, that determines how aggressive he'll be. If he doesn't respect what you got coming, like you have few knockouts, little power, he does have a good chin. So like Willie Monroe and this upcoming dude, I don't even know the guy's name his name is, he has the same name as Bill Cosby's wife. It's the pudding, my wife Camille now. It's Camille something, Camille Sriracha. I don't even know who dude is, but this guy only has 4 knockouts, 21% knockout ratio, things like that. So Golovkin should pretty well handle him, because he's a power puncher. He's a power puncher and he's aggressive and things like that. So you have to give Golovkin something to warrant him to be cautious and tread lightly. So it's pretty well documented. The Mexican style thing is out the window. You don't even really hear him mention that anymore, because like I said, the few times where it would have been the ample style to bring out for the fans, like David Lemieux fight, Canelo fights, and also Daniel Jacobs, we didn't really see that. We seen Golovkin, try a few things and resort to jabbing. If you look at the Canelo Jacobs fights, even the David Lemieux fight, the jab was his weapon. That was his weapon of choice. But now, fast forward to modern times, so I'm just giving you kind of a chronological order of some of the things that Team Golovkin has put out there that we know not to be the case now. They also said we'll fight anyone from 154 to 168. They even said they could beat guys at 175. Adonis Stevenson, who's recovering, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. But also Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev. Abel was brazen and bold and said that at 175, Golovkin beats those guys. Yet to this day, Wilder voice, to this day, we still have not seen Golovkin leave 160 pounds. Now he's signed his DAZN deal, and it looks like he's picking a opponent that nobody really wants to see him fight. Golovkin is getting paid whatever. I never care about people's money. I never pocket watch and stuff like that. But it is a disservice to even DAZN. Like you're supposed to be reeling in people, and I don't know. Maybe this is their game plan, but I don't see DAZN. They're gonna run into issues, I believe, with breaking the bank for fighters and then not putting on those fighters in significant marquee matchups. Like Canelo versus Rocky Fielding, that was a throwaway fight. It was just something to see Canelo. Everyone knew the outcome. Same thing with Triple G. And it's even worse for Triple G because Canelo has a bigger dedicated fan base. I feel like HBO Boxing, ESPN, they want you to believe that Gennady Golovkin is larger than he actually is. I'm not saying he's not popular or nobody knows him, but he's not on a Floyd Mayweather level. Conor McGregor, where you'll have people who don't even watch the sport of boxing, but they're familiar with the names and the faces of those guys, right? Mike Tyson, things like that. He's not on that level. So it's just like, it's disappointing because it feels like with Golovkin, his whole MO has switched. He's done a complete 180. Things he said, things his team said, I usually kind of put it all together because you're not checking your coach and telling them not to say that. So to me, this is you guys are all in cahoots, because I know if somebody was saying some crazy stuff on my behalf, and when it got back to me, I'd be like, no, that's not the case. I'm still ready to fight. Won't. So we've never seen Golovkin do that. We've never seen him come back and go against something that Abel has said. So, this is all one team. You got to be unison. And in this particular case, Abel Sanchez says, as Gennady said, this is not about the belts. So this sounds like direct correspondence and direct dialogue that he's had from Golovkin. So, you can't, I know the man fans try to find little loopholes and back doors out so they don't have to face the music, but new media is here. You're going to face the music. Then if you listen, I'm very much into linguistics, the choice words people use, how they word things. I mean, I have no choice. I did music, I'm a lyricist. So I pay attention to substance, what's being said, the words that are selected. And this is a complete and utter oxymoron and very hypocritical what Abel is saying. He says, let me refresh you guys on the quote. As Gennady said, this is not about the belts. This is about fighting the best that are out there. Right? Then he goes on immediately, like it's almost criminal that somebody could say that. It's not about the belts, it's about the best, And in the same breath say, if Jacobs beats Canelo is still the front runner to fight Golovkin. If we had to choose between Canelo and Jacobs, even if Jacobs win, we still want to fight Canelo. So you want to fight Canelo if he loses, but 2 seconds before you just said it's about the best versus the best. How is that the best if Jacobs arguably beat your fighter? I think he did. I was there. He arguably beat your fighter. And then if he beats Canelo as a champion, he will have multiple belts, like 3 belts, I think. Yeah, I think all the belts except for the WBO, which is held by Demetrius Andrade. And you're not like, oh, we already beat Jacobs, so we're going to target Andrade and then we'll make a unification for undisputed with Jacobs if he beats Canelo. They're actually telling you and comfortable telling you. See, that shows you the even bigger problem in boxing, that they're saying this and they're saying it like nonchalant. Like I watch a lot of crime shows like Forensic Files and Cold Case Files, things like that. And I watch like a lot of shows on like serial killers too and things like that. And it's crazy because some of the real loonies, like the real serial killers and stuff, they'll confess to everything they did, gruesome details, and they're smoking a cigarette and just saying it like nonchalant, like, so to me that shows that they don't really have remorse for what they did. They're just recanting what happened. Like, yeah, so I slit her throat. She didn't want to go on a date with me. Cut her head off. Then I drove to Taco Bell. Like, what? Like, you just gonna say it like that, And it's appalling how Abel Sanchez and Team Golovkin say this stuff, and you hear the man fans try to defend it. They'll say, oh, Boxingego's so biased. Oh, Boxingego hates this person. But I'm just merely going off of what's being said. And then those same fans will attack guys like Deontay Wilder, who we know is looking for the best challenges. For example, Deontay Wilder is setting up a meeting with DAZN to try to get him closer to Anthony Joshua just to hear him out. That's a step in the right direction. That shows that he listened to ESPN's offer, but he's listening to DAZN's offer. things like that. So that shows you that he fought Luis Ortiz when no one to this day wants to fight him, including Abel Sanchez's fighter, Joe Joyce, who Abel said is not ready. You get what I'm saying? And these same hypocritical fans, they can't be fans of the sport because they allow this and they criticize other people for far less than this. I've never heard Wilder say, you know, like let's say Tyson Fury and Joshua were fighting and he was like, man, I want to fight Tyson Fury, you know, even if he gets knocked out, I want him, you know. And I've seen sometimes fighters will say, just to show you that they're down to fight, like if there's a personal grudge, you know, sometimes they'll say like, oh, I'll fight him regardless if they win or lose because it's personal with me. But with Golovkin, it really feels like this is the ultimate clout chase. His whole latter part of his career is a clout chase, clout chasing Canelo, following him. You know, Canelo makes a move to DAZN, you go to DAZN. It's like the scene in Friday with Craig's pops, John Witherspoon, and he walks in. Every time I'm in the kitchen, you in the kitchen, eating up all the food. I like pig's feet. I like ham hock. You know, this is Golovkin's career now. You know, every time Canelo leaves HBO boxing, you want to leave HBO boxing. Canelo go to the zone, your ass want to go to the zone. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything he's doing, you're trying to, it's like you mimic it, you're following him. You're not taking stern challenges because you don't want to miss out on the Canelo sweepstakes. And it's really, really crazy that, you know, more people aren't talking about this. Like, you're willing to fight Vanes Martirosyan, who lost to Edison Lara, took 2.5 years off, comes up from 154 to 160, right? And you'll fight him rather than fight Sergey Derevyanchenko, who had at least beaten Toriano Johnson, and he knocked out Deshaun Johnson, who sparred Conor McGregor to get him ready for Floyd Mayweather, and he sparred with Golovkin actually too, you know, and Derevyanchenko knocked him out. Was the mandatory for the IBF. You don't fight him. Daniel Jacobs later fights him, and even though Jacobs knocked Derevyanchenko down early, Derevyanchenko showed you he ain't no punk and gave Jacobs a tough fight, which catapulted Jacobs into this Canelo fight. You didn't fight him, you fought Vanes, all because you're chasing Canelo. And now you're saying, your coach is saying, which is, you know, an extension of you, your coach is saying, man, even if Jacobs beats Canelo, you know, the front runner is Canelo. So I don't know what they talked about in those DAZN meetings, but that's the plan. But, you know, I'm not gonna support that. You know, I'm not gonna support that behavior. This could really backfire. You know, if Jacobs wins, you have history with both. So it's not like you never fought Jacobs and it's just oh so personal. You know, people say you lost to Jacobs too. You know, Canelo, the judges say you lost, but it was the other way around with the Jacobs fight. So you have really history with both, and now you're letting it be known. This is a complete 180 from what they've told us, people. You know, Abel Sanchez said things like, oh yeah, Gennady Golovkin, he wants all the belts. Yeah, that's all he cares about, undisputed. These were clearly lies. You know, there's no other way to say it, because there's no reason that anybody would flip completely, and now all of a sudden one loss that you're crying and saying robbery to, now all of a sudden your whole mission has changed and now you don't care about belts at all. That could have never been your standpoint. You know, the moment things don't go your way, then all of a sudden it's fuck the belts and fuck being the champion. And then to say you want the best versus the best, but then if Jacobs beats Canelo, how can he not be the best if he beats him fair and square? Because it's hard to beat Canelo anyway. You know, you have to beat him on the scorecards. You have to do your thing. So even though this is a terrible look to say, you know, you're saying even if he beats him, your interest is a rematch with the guy that beat you twice, arguably, or had a draw and then beat you or whatever, you know. And then fans, they allow this and attack other people. Oh, I'm not sold on Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. You see what they do to black fighters, you know? And then Golovkin is sitting up here, told you one thing. He says, hey, guess what? You know, I want all the belts. And you remember, it was like a hashtag. Hey, no, guys, hey, give me my belts, all the belts, guys, you know? And then now, all of a sudden, belts we're not even tripping off belts. You know? Canelo is another person who's criticized this. You know, DAZN, I don't know. I don't think this is a ticket. You're going to give Triple G an out where he don't have to fight tough competition. He don't have to fight Black Murderers Road 2.0. Jacobs, even if he wins, he don't have to fight Demetrius Andrade. He don't care about belts, but he's saying he wants the best fights. You know, this is really not a good look. Really and truly is not a good look for Golovkin to have said this, his team to have said this, that they want Canelo regardless of a loss. You know, I don't even, me personally as a fan, I don't know how many people agree with this, but I don't even really care about the Canelo Golovkin 3 fight. Like, I'm good not ever seeing it again, to be honest. So this looks like a major clout chase that fans are going to co-sign. They're going to co-sign whoever Golovkin picks. Like, let's say he fights this Camille dude. And they're like, yeah, this is a good fight. I've always wanted to see he can box. You know, he has 4 knockouts, but he could box. I've been waiting for Golovkin versus a boxer. They're going to say some bullshit. And then it looks like the game plan is to fight Canelo regardless. So hopefully he wins, so at least it's more justified. You know, but if Daniel Jacobs wins, then I'm considering a duck. If you don't fight him just because you want to clout chase Canelo and want the money fight, and this is just crazy because you see where they put Golovkin, the pedestal. They said he was number 1, said he was the best ever, said in the last 25 years he was the top. They compared him to Hagler. Oh, is he better than Hagler? Hell no. You know, there's no way you could say it, especially with these behavior. At least in Hagler's era, they fought everybody. You know, Hagler fought Ray Leonard. He fought Tommy Hearns in his prime and stopped him. So, you know, the Roberto Durans, they all fought. Them guys fought each other. So what are we even talking about? You can't compare him to Bernard Hopkins, too. Another legend. They were comparing his middleweight run, and I told you guys that. Now you see it. They've literally done a 180. They said, hey, no, guys, all the belts, undisputed. That's my main goal. They fed the public all of this. They said we're chasing Bernard Hopkins' middleweight title defense run. Now all of that shit's out the window. Now they're claiming they want the best fights, but telling you in the same breath that, guess what? Even if Canelo loses, we want to fight the loser. When do you see this? When do you see this from anybody? Like, imagine Regis Prograis, like he's in the tournament, World Boxing Super Series, and Josh Taylor beats Ryan Blue Chip Martin, Abel Sanchez's fighter, who later tested positive for PEDs. But Regis Prograis is in that same tournament. Let's say Ryan Blue Chip Martin gets stopped by Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis fought him in the amateurs or some backstory. They had some sparring war. And he says, you know what? I don't want to fight Taylor. I want to fight Ryan Blue Chip Martin coming off of a loss. What would y'all say about Regis Prograis if he did that? You know, what would you say about any fighter that was doing this? You know, Deontay Wilder. Let's say Gerald Miller. That's a perfect example. Let's say AJ knocks out Gerald Miller. Wilder has history with Gerald Miller, right? There was a commotion on what happened when they sparred. Wilder said he hurt him bad, and later on, Miller had to go to the hospital and had heat stroke and all types of stuff. He was doing bad. And then, you know, Gerald Miller says his side. So that's like Wilder saying his immediate target, even if AJ knocks out or beats Gerald Miller, is to fight Gerald Miller. What would you guys say about Wilder? Like, hey, I want to fight Gerald Miller. Like, we get it. There's bad blood and bad sparring and different things like that have happened, backstories. But who cares? Especially when you're feeding us a crock saying that You want the best versus the best. That's not the best versus the best if you're telling people that you want to fight a loser. Who fights the loser in fights? And that's their preference, you know? So it's looking like Golovkin, his career is a sham. The way people have rated him, HBO, ESPN. And what makes it even worse is they justify these things. And what makes it even worse is, fine, you want to put Golovkin as #1 pound for pound. That's your priority, and you know, it's your outlet. So that's what you do. But then they don't hold them to the caliber of a #1 pound for pound. But previous pound for pound, especially if they're black, like Floyd Mayweather Jr. or Floyd Mayweather, right? When he was #1, he couldn't fight Berto. This Camille dude is way worse than Berto. Berto at least is bigger than Floyd, always in shape, and has power and is explosive. And people, they flipped the lid when Floyd Mayweather said he was fighting Berto at age 40, 41 or whatever he was. Oh, this is ridiculous. He ruined his whole legacy. This is the stuff that they say. He ruined his legacy. It's over for Floyd. How could he, even though he fought Manny Pacquiao, the guy you guys all wanted to see him fight for 5-6 years, he fought him and then fought Berto to close the Showtime career in the same year. And they said all this stuff about Floyd. Oh, this is ridiculous. Why would he fight Berto? But Golovkin out here saying, you know, the rumor is, I don't know, you know, we'll see if it changes, that he might fight Camille, whoever, with 4 knockouts. He fought Willie Monroe with 6 knockouts, and he's supposed to be the boogeyman. And then now his trainer's telling you openly, man, we want the loser of that fight. You know, or if Canelo loses, we want that loser. This is laughable. New media killing y'all. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.